I'm Mike.
I'm Bob.
You're Inside Tennis with the Cause.
Tim Klitch, after 45 years, you recognized me yesterday, which was a tour de force in itself. You are in Sarasota, Florida. You're playing in the finals of a 55 and over national championship tomorrow. You came into this event ranked 10th in the country. You're seated second here. You have a good chance of moving into the top 5, top 6 of the country. College juniors, you were good. You were journeyman good. All of a sudden, something has happened. There's a renaissance in your game. What has been the key to success for senior tennis for you, Tim Klitch?
Well, Dave, I think it comes down to just drive and desire and working hard. And I think that's something that when I was a younger man, I didn't quite get what you needed to do to play at the top level. And so I just played to have fun. And now I'm playing more to win.
I saw you yesterday. You are having fun. In fact, you're an entertainer out there at times, and we'll find out where you got that. I know where you got it. There's a connect between the two of us, and he happens to be one of the most prolific and innovative coaches in the game. Your father, Dick Klitch, my first mentor. What impact, what influence has he had on you as a kid growing up and now later in life in tennis and in raising a family, your family?
Well, it's hard to overstate the impact he's had just because his technical skills are by far better than any other pro I've ever run across. I mean,
amen to that.
And you and I were talking about how I still today, when I'm having serve problems, pick up the phone and call him, and I've never known of a guy who can diagnose a serve without seeing it over the phone just by where you tell him the serve is going. So it's a lot of technical, but also I think more than that, it's the mental side. And when I was a younger man, I didn't quite get how to apply yourself mentally in a match. And now as I've gotten older and a little more worldly and, been kicked around a little bit, now I realize, when something's not working, you got to change it. And when that's not working, you got to change it. And that's the one thing my dad always impressed upon me was having a plan B, a C, and a D. And to stay with a losing game plan is a losing proposition.
College days, your dad was an all-star basketball player, tennis player at Miami of Ohio. You went to Miami of Ohio. There was a woman that went to Miami of Ohio, became part of your lifetime influence, Joan. And your dad's very competitive. We know that. Still is very competitive. But he had the strongest competition of his life, not on the tennis court, not on the basketball court, but in the classroom. Share that interesting story, Tim.
Well, I thought it was really funny. My oldest son was up in Ohio the other day and going through my dad's scrapbooks and found an article that was written in the mid-'50s that got picked up on the wire services that talked about a co-ed at Miami who had lost a wager with her boyfriend that she thought she would beat his grade point for a certain semester by over 1.0 on the 4.0 scale, and he managed to come up with a 3.2 that semester, which was probably his all-time high water mark of his GPA, if I know my dad well. And so she lost the bet, and I will say that's probably the only bet and the only academic challenge she ever lost to my dad because she's a pretty smart lady.
Well, the Silver Fox did it again. And the guy loved life. He still loves life to the optimal. But he was able to combine a full life with basketball, with tennis, with sports, with academics, and becoming a teacher. And he almost had a philosophy in life. Don't allow the academics to interfere with your education. So when you look at your dad, for the thousands of people that he has coached, what influence makes him the most proud that he had a major contribution to their lives?
Well, you can certainly look at some of the people, like, for instance, my sister, who made it to the number 50 spot in the world.
Jenny Klitch.
Yeah, I think that's her name. And so certainly he's had an impact on some really good players who did very well in their professional careers. But I think what really made an impact on me was how he really cared about every single lesson he gave. And his goal was to make that the best lesson that person ever had from anybody. And he took the lesson with the 2.5 rated housewife as seriously as he did a lesson with an aspiring professional. And, certainly different skill sets and different outcomes. But, he wanted that person to feel good about themselves and feel good about their tennis game, no matter what their skill level. And I think that's one of the things that's really stayed with me. It's not your absolute skill level. It's getting the most out of what you have and helping people achieve that goal.
The Silver Fox, as many of us in the industry called your dad, our mentor, our friend, did it in college at the highest level. He's playing a Hall of Famer, Tony Trabert, in basketball and on the tennis court, and he's holding his own. What stories has he shared with his kids, you and the others, brothers and sisters, and with the grandkids about this Tony Trabert rivalry that they had from the University of Cincinnati to the University of Miami in Ohio?
Well, I think that Tony was clearly at another level on the tennis front, and as good as my dad was, he was a self-taught guy from Portsmouth, Ohio, and did really well for his starting point to where he got to. But I think the one story I remember about that was my dad was a starter for Miami, and Tony Trabert was kind of a scrub for Cincinnati in basketball. And so, while I don't think my dad probably could have beat him in tennis, one time they, at the end of a game when Miami was mopping up on Cincinnati, Tony Trabert came in the game, and my dad hadn't been taken out yet. And he was getting boxed out by Tony for a rebound and gave him a little forearm shove and pushed him under the hoop and made a tip in to score a bucket on Tony. And Tony let loose with a few choice words on the way up the court. And so I think, my dad won the one battle I know they had. But
you've been successful in your second life outside of college tennis in the banking, a major contribution that you're making to the industry in Austin, Texas. You're president of the club, Westwood Country Club, and you have a commitment to excellence. So what do? You bring in Dick Klitch to do some advisory capacity work as a consultant. How proud were you of your dad coming down to help you in that capacity, and what did you learn from the old fox in that situation, Tim?
Well, I think, when you're in a member-owned club, you always have some strange dynamics of politics and people that want their way and have different visions. And I think the thing that I've always appreciated of my dad is he doesn't really care who hires him or who wants what outcome. He's going to call it like he sees it. And that's the one thing I've learned from him over all the years is, if you've got professional skills, you use them, you apply them, and you don't tell people what they want to hear. You tell people what they need to hear. And he did that for our club and provided a very valuable service. And he had a lot of experience at multiple clubs, and we'd had a lot of people at our club that had been there 20 or 25 years and needed a little bit of outside perspective, and he was very helpful at that.
You brought him down another time, this time as a member guest partner. Now, you're in your 40s, he's in the 70s, and you're playing guys your age, and he holds his own. Share that weekend with us.
Well, that was probably our last great memory on the tennis court, and we were playing in the top level against all the open players. We won our first match pretty easily. We were down in the second one badly. I think it was 6-0, 3-0, 30 love, and we came back and won the match. And then in the finals, we were playing a couple of really good players, and I was worried about my dad's stamina because he hadn't been playing much, and it was about 94 degrees and 90% humidity. And so I said, "Look, Dad, I'll take all the lobs. You just cover your side. Anything goes up in the air, I'll take it." So about 15 overhead slams into the finals. One of the guys slammed his racket down and said, "You going to let the old man hit an overhead today, Klitch?" And I said, "Heck no." But my dad tore them up on the returns and the volleys and just the double strategy. He was, still at age 70, able to school these 40-year-old guys. And I was really proud to have him out there. And I think a lot of people at Westwood Country Club still remember that match is a really fun time at our club.
Dick Klitch was committed to home, to family, stayed in Columbus all his life, coached, directed tennis, promoted tennis in Columbus, Ohio. Once he stepped out when Don Dunn, his employer at the Columbus Indoor, was the president of the United States Indoor Tennis Association, and he gave the country a treat. He brought your dad down to Miami to address all the indoor owners. What was the country missing by not hearing more of Dick Klitch?
Well, I think he's just a real simple, what you see is what you get guy. And I think that a lot of tennis pros give average to good lessons, and my dad tried to give great lessons every single time he stepped on the court. And,
Very innovative.
and
Very innovative.
we talked a little bit about some of the drills, and I still remember one story where he had one of his drills that he would do with somebody who was not skilled at stroke production was he would take an unstrung racket and take them out and practice stroking through the ball, and if things worked out, the ball would pass through the center of the unstrung racket. Well, he had one lessonee who was particularly unskilled and hit 8 or 9 straight balls over the net with a racket that had no strings in it. And I think that one may have taxed the limit of his teaching skills. But that was just another example of some of the strategies he would use with people to try and get them to understand how to hit a tennis ball better.
Dick Klitch taught me a myriad of things, so many things about working with individuals, being an individual within the individual. He taught me patience. He taught me innovation. And one of his most innovative sayings was, almost. And he learned to use it when he was giving the governor of Ohio tennis lessons. You were there. I was there. Relive some of those stories.
Well, there used to be a lot of people come from, John Glenn, I think, was another one of his clients, and people who were very skilled in their other life liked taking lessons from my dad because he was really good at it. And secondly, they knew that he wouldn't tell stories about them behind their back, and that it wouldn't make it into the press, and that they had somebody they could trust.
But now you are giving back the love of the game, the gift that Dick Klitch gave you as a kid. You're giving back to him right now. How good of a feeling, how proud of a feeling is that for you to share that with your dad now?
Well, we've had a lot of fun. He's come to see me play in 2 different tournaments this year, one at the National Grass Courts in Detroit, and then a Category 2 in Austin. And it's so much fun. I don't know that he understands how I play because he didn't teach me this crazy method that I used to play, but he sure likes the result, which is more wins than losses, and I use my strengths, and that's the one thing he taught me wasn't any particular way to play, but how to attack the game using what you've got to your advantage to get the best result possible. And I think every day he sees me, whether it's raising my kids or being a good husband, playing tennis, or at work, he knows that I've taken all those lessons that he taught me on the court and at home with me, and I use them and I live them, and it's made me a better person for it.
Now that we have gotten back together in 45 years, I hope it's not another 10 years before you see me again, but if you do, I hope you recognize me then.
I certainly will, Dave. Thank you very much, Kaz, and it's great to see you again.
No, better seeing you and talking about Dick Klitch.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm John Isner, and you're Inside Tennis with the Kaz.